So welcome everybody to this latest video on 160 Maths, and in this video we'll be concluding the AQA GCSE Maths June 2018 paper with a focus on the higher paper 3, which is a calculator paper. Now as always, I'll include a link to the paper if you've not got it for you to try the paper before watching this video as we go through the answers, and I'll include the grade boundaries in the description below for the individual paper but also for the grand total of the June 2018 higher set of exam papers. So let's get started on this calculator paper. So looking at question 1, we see that we need to circle the decimal that is closest to the value of 11 over 20. Now for these types of questions with a calculator, just simply type in 11 divided by 20 and you should get an answer of 0.55. So this is 0.55, and then it's just a case of analysing which one's closest, and the closest answer is going to be 0.56. Question 2, it then says for us to circle all the integers that satisfy, and then we've got this inequality. Now for this, an easy way that how I like to teach it is basically write down all the numbers between the range, and hopefully it's not a tedious task. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if it's got a line underneath the inequality, it means you keep it. If it doesn't, you delete it. So I can delete that. So this is the set that I'm looking for, and that is represented by the last option. The next question, question 3, says circle the largest number, and again for this we just need to make sure all the numbers have the same number of decimal points, but the correct answer you should have is our first option of 3.27 recurring. Then for question 4, it says what is the size of the exterior angle of a regular decagon. Now a decagon has got 10 sides, so for this we just need to do 360 divided by the number of sides, which is 10, so that equals 36, so it's going to be our second option. Then for question 5, now this one's worth 4 marks, so it is going to be a bit of a time-consuming question. So it says A is a common factor of 72 and 120, B is a common multiple of 6 and 9, work out the highest possible value of A over B. Now to get the highest value of a fraction, what we're needing is we want A to be as big as possible, and we want B to be as small as possible. And that will give us the biggest possible value of this fraction. So in terms of the A, let's look at the common factors of 72 and 120. So you're looking for which numbers go into both 72 and 120. So if I just list all of those common factors, so here I'm going to end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12 and 24, and then I go on to list the common multiples of 6 and 9. Now the smallest number that appears in both the 6 and the 9 times table is 18, so all I need to then do is just write down the 18 times table, so 18, 36, 54, etc. Now to get the biggest value or the highest possible value, I want the biggest value of A, which in this case is 24, and I want the smallest value of B, which is 18. So here it's going to be A over B is going to equal 24 over 18, which gives me either 4 over 3 or 1 and 1/3. So any of those formations writing the answer would be absolutely fine. And looking at question 6, it says A and B are similar shapes. B is an enlargement of A with a scale factor of 1.5, and the question is asking to work out the values of X, H and W. So doing this in well, not in alphabetical order, but looking at X first. Now in similar shapes, the angles are always going to be the same. The interior angles, they do not change. So if this angle here is 54, then this angle here is going to be the same. So X equals 54 degrees. Now for W and H, it's about recognizing that the scale factor is going to be basically 1.5. So to work out W, I'm going from the small shape, so W equals the corresponding side, which is 9, and because I'm going for the smaller option, I'm dividing by 1.5, and that's going to give me an answer of 6. And then for H, I'm going for the corresponding side, which I know, which is 5, and this time I'm going from small to big, so I multiply it by 1.5, and that gives me an answer of 7.5. So there I've got my values of W and H. So I just write that in. So I've got 7.5 and 6. Then moving on to question 7, it says investment A, save £150 per month for 200 years, for 2 years at a rate of 2.5 interest is added to the total amount saved. Then for investment B is invest 3,500 with a compound interest is added at 3% per year. After 2 years, how much more is investment B worth than investment A? So let's first of all work out what investment A is going to be. So here I've got £150 times, and I'm doing it for 2 years, so that is 2 times 12, which equals 24 months. So I'm going to do 150 times 24, and then I'm going to multiply that by the interest rate of 2.5%. Now I'm adding 2.5%, so it's 100 plus 2.5, which equals 102.5. So that as a decimal multiplier is going to be 1.025. And then if I work that out, I get an answer of 3690. Then with investment B, I'm investing 3,500 and I'm using a compound interest of 3%. So 100 plus 3 is 103. That as a decimal is 1.03 rather, and that's after 2 years. So if I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of 3713 and 15 pence. Now the question is asking for how much more is investment B, so it's going to be 3713.15 minus 3690, which gives me a total of £23 and 15 pence. Then moving on to question 8, it says that show that the lines y equals 3x plus 7 and 2y minus 6x equals 8 are parallel. So here we obviously can't draw a graph. So if parallel, gradients are the same. So that's a proof that we are going to be using. So here with y equals 3x plus 7, that the gradient is the number of x's. So here we've got a gradient of 3. Then with 2y minus 6x equals 8, well, I need to do a bit of rearranging. So that's going to be 2y equals 6x plus 8. And then we've got y equals 3x plus 4. So as you can see here, we've got another gradient of 3. And as they're both the same, they are parallel. Question 8b says that is the point minus 5 minus 6 above or below or on the line of y equals 3x plus 7. So before we answer, what we need to do is basically sub the x ordinate, x equals minus 5, into y equals 3x plus 7. So if I substitute it in, now if it's on the line, then it's going to give me the same, it should give me minus 6. If it's below, it's going to be an answer that is going to be smaller than minus 6. And if it's above, it's going to be a number that's bigger than minus 6. So it's above if it's bigger than minus 6, below if it's less than minus 6, and it's on the line if it equals 0. So substituting minus 5 into the equation, we get y equals 3 times minus 5 plus 7. So we have minus 15 plus 7, which gives me an answer of minus 8. And so that there is below. Then with question 9, it says that the cost of a ticket increasing by 10% to £19.25. Work out the original cost. So this is a reverse percentage question. So it's going to be 19.25. Now, when we're increasing by 10%, that's a decimal multiplier of 1.10 or 1.1. Now, because we're doing reverse, rather than multiplying, we are going to be dividing. And if I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of £17.50. Then with question 10, it says that the nth term of a sequence is 12n minus 5. Work out the numbers in the sequence that have 2 digits and are not prime. So what I need to do is work out basically when n equals 1, n equals 2, n equals 3, n equals 4, all the way until I stop getting a 2-digit number. So from this, I can work out that the first couple of numbers, so when n equals 1, it's going to equal 7. Then the next number is 19, then 31, then 43, then 55, then it's going to be 67, then it's going to be 79, and then it's going to be 91. And after that, they're all 3-digit numbers. So here, n equals 2, n equals 3, n equals 4, n equals 5, n equals 6, n equals 7, and n equals 8. So looking at these numbers, which of these are not prime? Well, 55 is not prime, and 91 is not prime. So it then says work out the number that aren't prime. Well, the answer is going to be 55 and 91. Then moving on to question 11, which looks at vectors and column vectors, and the question saying we need to work out what a plus b plus c is. So looking at these, what we need to do is just write down what the fractions are, or the vectors are. So we've got 6 minus 10 plus minus 1 2 plus minus 4 7. So working this out, we've got 6 minus 1 plus minus 4 and minus 10 plus 2 plus 7. So if I work out those two lines, what do I get? Well, I get 1 and minus 1. Now for question 11b, it says show that a plus 2c is parallel to b. So for this, all I need to show is that the a plus 2c is a factor or a multiple of b. So if parallel a plus 2c is a factor or multiple of b. So let's first of all work out what a plus 2c equals. Well, a plus 2c is going to be 6 minus 10 plus 2 lots of minus 4 7. So working this out, I have 6 minus 10 plus minus 8 14, and that equals minus 2 and minus 4. So from this, as 2b equals minus 2 minus 4. So again, all I've got to do is multiply what b is. And again, if I just quickly look up what b is, it's minus 1, 2. That if I multiply that out, and actually that should be plus 4, not minus 4. I don't know why I've done that. So let's just get rid of that and correct it. So that should be 4, and that should be 4. Therefore, it is a plus 2c is parallel to b. The next question, question 12, says pressure equals force over area. A force of 40 newtons is applied to an area of 3.2 square meters. Work out the pressure, give your units for your answer. So for this, it's going to be using the formula. The force is 40 divided by 3.2, and that gives me an answer of 12.5. Now for 1 mark, we also need to write down the units. So the force is measured in newtons, and obviously then the area is in square meters. So it's going to be meters squared. Now you could use nm to the power of minus 2. That's entirely up to you, whichever you've been taught. The next question then says tick all the statements that are true for any rhombus. Well, for these types of questions, sometimes it's often useful to sketch a rhombus. And let me just do like so. And which are the correct statements? So it's the diagonals are lines of symmetry, which is true. Diagonals bisect each other, that is true. And the diagonals are perpendicular, which is true. And the only one that isn't true is the last statement. So for question 14, it says draw the graph of y equals 0.8x for the values of x where it's between 0 and 6. So what we need to do is just substitute x of these numbers into this formula. So this number here is going to be 0.8 to the power of 0. This is going to be 0.8 to the power of 1. This number is 0.8 to the power of 2. That's going to be 0.8 to the power of 3, and so on. Now, looking at the scale of what we're going to have to actually do, because obviously you're going to have to plot it, I would say give your answers to 1 decimal place. So here, substituting it all into my calculator, I get 1, 0.8, 0.64, 0.51, 0.41. Now I'm going into a little bit of detail with regards to that extra decimal place, but it's just going to make it easier for me to round. So for this, then we then need to plot these points. So my first one at 0 is at 1. Then it's at 1, it's at 0.8, which is a nice easy one for me to plot. 2, it is at 0.64. So again, it's going to be halfway in between. Then for question 3, it's at 0.51, which is just there. Then for 4, it's at 0.41, which is there. At 5, it's at 0.33, which is there. And 6, it's at 0.26, which is about halfway. Now, actually, I did say to 1 decimal place. I would actually say to 2 decimal places would be absolutely fine, because we've got those little boxes of going up in 0.2. So the next thing we then need to do is just carefully join those points up with a curve. So again, very tricky doing this on the computer, but you want to make sure that your curve goes through each of those points like so. So then moving on to question 15, it says Amy has X beads, Billy has 3 more beads than Amy, Carly has 4 times as many beads as Billy. Circle the expression for the number of beads that Carly has. So for this, we know that for Billy, if he's got 3 more than Amy, then he's going to have X plus 3. Then if Carly's got 4 times the amount of Billy, that's going to be 4 lots of X plus 3. So then that expression unexpanded is going to be our third option. Then with question 16, it says 2 straight lines intersect at point A, and it says circle the coordinates of A. So here what we've got is, as both equations are equal to y, we make them equal to each other. So I get 3 equals minus 4x. I want to make x a subject, so I take the 4 over. So I've got 3 over minus 4. So the x ordinate is this, and the y ordinate is going to be 3. So I'm looking for 3 minus 3/4 and 3, which is our first option. Then moving on to question 17, it says here are 2 methods to make a 4-digit code. Codes have can have repeated digits. For method A, for the first 2 digits, use an odd number between 30 and 100, and for the last 2 digits, use a multiple of 11. And then for method B, it says use 4 digits in order, where you've got an even number, then an odd number, then an even number, then an odd number, and you cannot use the digit 0. And the question then says which method gives the greater number of possible codes, and you must show your working. So here, let's have a look at method A. Now for method A, what I need to do is work out how many odd numbers. So for the first 2 is how many odd numbers are there between 30 and 100. Well, half of them are going to be odd. So if I do 100, take away 30, divided by 2, so that's going to give you 70, divided by 2 is 35. So they're going to be 35 odd numbers. Then for the second 2 digits, that's going to be a multiple of 11. So between between 30, with all the double digits, it's going to be 11, and we've got 22, we've got 33, we've got 44, 55. So basically there's going to be 9 numbers that are multiples between the 2 digits. So here then the number of combinations for method A is going to be 35 times 9, which gives me an answer of 315. Then for method B, well, for single digits, how many even numbers are there? So we're looking at 2, 4, 6, 8, so that's going to be 4. How many odd numbers that are single digits? Well, we've got 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, so that's 5. Then we've got another 4, then we've got another 5. So if I work that out, I get an answer of 400. And the question's asking which method gives you the greater number of possible combinations. Well, it's going to be method B. Then for question 18, it says show that for x is not equal to 0. Now again, the reason why they're writing this is because you can't be dividing by 0. So it really doesn't have any reference to the question, and its question is just asking us to simplify and write this as a single fraction. So again, topic on this one, it's algebraic fractions. So what we want to try and do here is get a common denominator. So here, our common denominator is going to equal 6x. Now to get 6x, I need to multiply this fraction by 2, and I need to multiply this fraction by 3. And if I do just that, I end up with 2 lots of x plus 4 over 6x minus, and then if I multiply this fraction by 3, I end up with 15 over 6x. Now that the common denominators are the same, I can join the numerators. So I've got 2x plus 8 minus 15, all divided by 6x. Then if I simplify the numerator, I get 2x minus 7 all over 6x. Now I could break that up, but I don't need to, because I need to write it in this form, which I have done. And so the answer then is 2x minus 7 over 6x. Then with question 19, it says the equation of a straight line is 3x plus 2y equals 24. Circle the point where the line crosses the x-axis. Now it crosses the x-axis when y equals 0. So if I substitute y equals 0 into this, I end up with 3x plus 0 equals 24. So x is going to equal 8. So I'm looking for 8, 0, which is our last option. Then with question 20, it says all dimensions are in centimeters, and it says use Pythagoras' theorem to work out the exact value of x over y. So labeling my triangle, this is C, that's A, that's B. So I've got that x squared plus 7x, it's important that we put that in brackets, squared equals bracket 10y squared. So from this, what we've then got is x squared plus 49x squared equals 100y squared. Now simplifying the left hand side, I get 50x squared equals 100y squared. Now if I do a bit of moving the number, moving the letter, so if I take I want to get x over y, so if I take the 50 over, I end up with x squared equals 2y squared. And then if I then take the y squared over, I then get x squared over y squared equals 2. Now I want to get the value of x over y, so then if I then square root both sides, I end up with x over y equals root 2. So the answer then is root 2. Now if you wanted to, you could, well it does say the exact value, so I'm actually going to leave it as root 2 and not as the decimal answer. If I did, I probably would lose the mark. Then for question 21, it says the mass of an ornament is in m grams, the height of an ornament is in h centimeters, m is directly proportional to the cube of h when m equals 1600, when h equals 8. Work out the equation connecting m and h. So this is looking at direct proportion. So looking at this line here, let's write that using maths notation. So m is directly proportional to the cube of h. So then I write m equals kh cubed, and then using these numbers here, substitute it in, so I've got 1600 equals k times 8 cubed. So k equals 1600 divided by 8 cubed, which gives me a k value of 1600 over 8 cubed, which is, and again if I get my calculator to word that out, it's 512. So k equals 25 over 8. So then the formula then is going to be m equals 25 over 8 h cubed. Now you could write it as 25 h cubed over 8. That's entirely fine, or you can keep it as long as the h over cubed is being multiplied by is at the top or in the middle, and that's going to be absolutely fine. The question 21b says work out the mass of the ornament with a height of 12. So all I need to do is substitute 12 into part A. So I get m equals, and then bracket 25 over 8 multiplied by 12 cubed. Type that all into my calculator and I get an answer of 5,400. Moving on to question 22, it says A, B and C are points on a circle, DCB is a straight line and PAQ is a tangent to the circle. Sam is trying to work out the size of angle M. Here is his working out, so there we go. So it says that ACB is 56, which is true. And it says make one criticism of his working. Well, the error is not in his numbers, the error is in his reasoning. So basically, he's got the first statement wrong. So the reason for the first line is incorrect and should be related to the alternate segment theorem. And there you go. So for next question, question 23, it says sequence of numbers is formed by the iterative process, and then we've got our formula, and the question is asking us to work out the values of u2, and u3. So here we've got u1 equals 4, so u2 is going to be 3 over, and it's the previous answer, which is 4 and plus 1, and if I type that all into my calculator, I get an answer of 3 over 5. Then for u3, it's going to be 3 over the previous answer, which in this case now is 3 over 5 plus 1. And again, if I type that all into my calculator, I should have an answer of 1.875. Now, if you wanted to give the first answer as a decimal, that's absolutely fine. Either or would have been acceptable for the 4 marks. Then for question 24, it says the speed time graph shows 20 seconds of a car journey. Harry wants to estimate the distance the car travels in this time. Use the triangle and the trapezium as shown to estimate the area under the graph. So what we've got is we've got 2 shapes, and I'm just going to call that A and B. And so what we need to do is work out the area of A and B and then add them together. So here the area of A is a triangle, and it's got a base of 10 times a height of 20, and I'm dividing that by 2, so that gives me an answer of 100. So then working out the area of B, which is a trapezium, so it's the 2 parallel sides, so it's this length here, which is 20, plus this length here, which is 30, multiplied by the height, which is this here, which is 10, all divided by 2. And I type that all into my calculator, I get an answer of 250. So then the total distance is going to be 350, and it's going to be in meters or miles, whichever the m's represents. So the question then 24b then says, for his journey, which of these is true for Harry's method? And it's going to be an underestimate, and the reason for that is because, as you can see, for the area of B, we're missing this bit here. So that's why Harry's estimate is going to be an underestimate. Then for question 25, it says ABCDEF is a triangular prism which represents part of a hill. ABCF is the horizontal rectangular base, and D is vertically above C. And the question is asking us to work out the height of CD. So what we're looking at is we're trying to work out what this length here is. That's for part A. So if I take that triangle out, then the information I've got is that this is 500 meters, this angle here is 6 degrees, and this is what I'm trying to find. So you can see straight away it's going to be a trig question. So this is theta, this is my opposite, and this is the adjacent. So here we've got tan 6 equals, and it's going to be opposite over adjacent. So x equals 500 times tan 6. And if I enter that into my calculator, I get an answer of 52.6 meters, and that's to 1 decimal place. Then looking at question 25b, it says Jamil walks in a straight line from A to D, and the question's asking us to work out the size of angle DAC. So what it is that I'm actually trying to find is basically if I join that point there and join this triangle here, this is the angle that I'm trying to find. Now the first thing I need to do is find out sides of the triangle. I know that this is 52.6, but then I need to work out what this angle here is. Now to work out the angle, I need to know 2 sides of that triangle. So if I just take that triangle out and call this x, and I call this 52.6, and this is what I'm trying to find here, and that's A to C. Now I can use a range of methods. I can use well, I'm going to have to use Pythagoras to work this out. So looking at this triangle here, that from that green triangle, it's a right angle triangle, and this is 500, this is 400, and this is A to C. So using Pythagoras, I get AC squared equals 400 squared plus 500 squared. So AC squared equals, and 400 times squared plus 500 squared gives me 410,000. So AC equals the square root of 410,000, and I've gone a bit crazy with the zero, so let's just delete one. So AC equals 640.3. So this length here is 640.3 to one decimal place. So from this, what I could then do is then work out what is going to use trig. So again, this is going to be theta, this is going to be O, this is going to be A. So I've got tan x equals 52.6 over 640.3, and then the inverse tan of 52.6 over 640.3 equals x. And if I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of 4.7. Now, if you've used the exact values, so obviously I've used rounded answers for my lengths. If you've used the exact values, your answer might slightly differ, but as long as it's around about 4.7, it should be fine. So if you've got 4.6 or 4.8 to one decimal place, then that is going to be absolutely fine. And remember, if you have rounded, make sure you're stating what you've rounded it to. For question 26, it says that the histogram shows information about the speed of cars as they pass a checkpoint. The scale of the frequency density axis is missing. The histogram shows information of around about 480 cars. How many cars does the first bar represent? Now, for this, what we want to try and do is basically count how many squares there are in each bar. So the number of squares is going to be in the first bar. I'm counting 3 by 5, so that's going to be 15, plus, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and a bit, so about 6.5. So let's just call that 6. And then the last one we've got 3, so plus 3. So you're looking around about 24 squares. Now, if we've got 480 cars divided by 24, that gives me a total of around about 20 cars equals 1 square. What I mean by a square is a 5 by 5 square. So from this, in terms of the first bar, it equals roughly around about 15 squares. And so if I multiply 15 by 20, it roughly gives me an estimate of around about 300 cars. For question 26b, it says cars with a speed greater than 40 miles per hour are over the speed limit. Use the histogram to estimate the number of cars that are over the speed limit. So going back to the graph, what we notice is that, well, if this is going to represent 20, then what we've got then is 300 from the first bar. Is we need to then try and label what the cars are. So here I've got 300 divided by the class width, which is 15, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 15, and that equals 20. And so the height of the first bar equals 20. So if I go back to this, that's going to represent 20. That's then going to represent 16, 12, 8, and 4. Now, as you can see, in terms of this last bar from 30 to here, this is what I'm trying to work out. So then what I've got is I've got 4. I need to work out what one of these small little boxes are. So if I do 4 divided by 5 times 4, because obviously this last bar comes up to 4 bars up, that gives me an answer of 3.2. So the height of this is 3.2. The width is 10. So then to work out how many cars are over 40 miles per hour, it's going to be 10 times 3.2, which gives me an answer of 32. For question 27, it says that a bag contains 30 discs, 10 are red, 20 are blue, and it says one disc is taken at random and replaced by 2 other colours. Another disc is taken at random and replaced by 2 of the other colour. Another disc is taken at random, and it says work out the probability that all 3 discs are red. So for this, what we kind of need to do is to draw a tree diagram, but we don't need to go as far as anything else. So here, what we've got to look at is our first couple of options are either red or blue. Now, all we're looking for is the probability of looking at red. So I don't need to complete this even if you wanted to. But again, looking at the first probability of selecting a red, that's going to be 10 out of 30, and blue is 20 out of 30. Now, if we've selected a red one, which we are hoping that we are, then what the next statement then says is one disc is taken at random and replaced by 2 other colours. So if we've selected a red one first, then that means we're going to get 2 extra blue ones. So from 20, I'm now going to have 22. I've taken 1 counter, but I'm now adding 2. So it means I'm going to end up with 31 counters. And I'm down 1 red counter. So that's going to be 9 over 31. Now from the next statement, I've then got red and blue. So again, I'm going to take a red one, so I'm going to end up with 8. But then I'm going to have 30 counters left in the bag, but I'm then going to have another 2 entered, so then that's going to be 32. And then increasing the number of blue counters by 2, so that's going to be 24 over 31. So from this then, what I then need to do then is to work out the probability of getting 3 reds, which is going to be, for the first one, it's 10 over 30 times the second red, which is 9 over 31, times the third one, which is 8 over 32. And if I type that all into my calculator, which I'm going to do now, just to double check, 9 over 31 times 8 over 32, and it gives me an answer of 3 over 124. Now moving on to question 28, it says P is a point on the circle with the equation of x squared plus y squared equals 80. P has a x ordinate of 4 and is below the x-axis. Work out the equation of the tangent to the circle at P. So for this, what we need to work out is, now we know that this value here is 4. So that's at 4. Now we know from the equation of the circle that the radius is going to be at root 80. So if we look at this here, I can see that I've got a right angle triangle. This length here is 4, and this length, which is the radius of the circle, which is going to be root 80. So taking that triangle out, I've got 4 root 80. I can then work out what this length here is going to be. So because obviously that then is going to give me my y ordinate. So from this I can use Pythagoras. So what I've got is I've got root 80 squared equals, and it's going to be 4 squared plus x squared. So root 80 squared is 80 equals 16 plus x squared. So here from this I've then got 80 take away 16, which is going to give me 64 equals x squared. So x equals, and it's going to be plus or minus 8. Now from this then, what I've then worked out is obviously because x is going to be, well, from this it's going to be what? Well, from this is my y ordinate. I know it's below the x-axis, so therefore y equals minus 8. So the coordinates of P is going to be 4 minus 8. Now from this, what I then need to do is, so that's one coordinate. The next thing I then need to do is work out the gradient. Now, if the gradient from of O to P, and I'm going to use the formula of y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So from this, I've then got, so if I use a P as y2, so I get minus 8 and 4, and I've got 0 and 0. So here I've got minus 8 over 4, which equals minus 2. So therefore the gradient of the tangent is perpendicular, so gradient of the tangent is going to be minus 1 over minus 2, which equals a half, and this is my value of m, so that's the gradient of the tangent. Now from this, once I've got this, there's a couple of ways in which you can do. So you can either use y minus y1 equals mx minus x1, or you can use y equals mx plus c. So from using this first equation, what I've got to substitute, well, I know that x1, y1 is this, so this is my y1, this is my x1. So I've got y minus 8 equals a half x minus 4. And if I then go on to simplify this, I get x plus 8 equals a half x minus 2. And so I get y equals a half x, and it's going to be minus 10. Then if I use y equals mx plus c, what I've got to do is work out what c is. So I know that y is 4 equals a half times x, which is 4, plus c. And then, so from, or it should be 8, sorry. So let's just change that. And that should be minus 8. And then what I end up with is 4 equals, and it's going to be minus 4 plus c. And then from that, what I've then got is, actually I've got those the wrong way around, so let me just correct that. I was wondering why it's going to give me the right answer. So here it should be minus 8 equals a half times 4 plus c. Minus 8 equals, this is much better, 2 plus c, so c equals minus 10. So I get y equals a half x minus 10. And as you can see, I've both got the same answer, so y equals a half x minus 10. Now if you did write your answer, and you can get rid of the fraction by writing 2y minus equals x minus 20, that's absolutely fine. There's loads of different variations that you could have your answer, but as long as it simplifies when you make y the subject as y equals a half x minus 10, jobs are good. And that concludes the end of this paper. Now we'll include the grade boundaries once you've marked your paper to see what grade you've got on this individual paper with the grade boundaries in the description, and I'll also include the overall. If you've completed paper 1 and 2, you can see what your overall total is and then match that up with the overall grade boundaries for the June 18 higher GCSE papers.